From Wall Street to Main Street to help small business owners have the same capital as corporate America and give them the same resources as a larger company. We cover business funding, business credit, scaling, business consulting, and much more. Check out the website at shieldadvisorygroup.com. Welcome to the show, The Liquid Lunch Project.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan, alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosabianca. What's going on this week, Lou?
Hey, partner. Matt, there's a story I've never told you. Years ago, at my little sister's graduation, at the commemoration, you know how these universities try to get prestigious speakers to kind of make it a big event? Larry King spoke. And he gets up there, and you remember Larry King, the old the nighttime host of CNN. He had a bit of a presence. He shows up with his suspenders, that very distinguished silver mane, and he gets up and he says, "Guys, you've all wasted 4 years of your life." I said, "Where's he going with this? Geez, what a way to start a commemoration!" And he says, "You guys," now this is the graduation of Brooklyn College. He goes, "You guys have an education just being born in Brooklyn. You guys, such a head start. Going to college is like being on steroids for the rest of your life." And I think that quote is appropriate for today's guest. Living in LA, but from the origins of humble Brooklyn, where he sharpened his teeth, Jeff Cohen. Now, Jeff is one of those special entrepreneurs. He came, he saw, he conquered, and now he's teaching the next generation on how to conquer. He's got this wonderful book, Count Honorable. And Jeff tells us this book is for the entrepreneur freedom fighters. Jeff, welcome to the Liquid Lunch Project. And tell us, what do you mean? Who are these freedom fighters?
Oh my gosh. Well, they are you and me. We go and we start a business, or we have an established business, or we're an executive doing some major function, right? And we feel like we want to have some freedom in what we're doing. It should be easy at this stage. We've reached a level in our career with all this experience and teamwork, yet you can't go on a vacation without being in meetings for 2 to 4 hours a day. And it kills the relationships with your family, kills relationships with other people you have, and you feel shackled to your business. So I dedicated my book to entrepreneurial freedom fighters everywhere, because we're fighting for freedom. And what that fight is all about is creating teams and teamwork that create teams and teamwork, so we have businesses that grow with us and without us.
Jeff, you're preaching to the choir here, pal. But the mantra to your book is also, you are unabashedly unashamed of your many failures. And it's the proving ground for your book. What do you say to those that say, on one side of the spectrum, you've got the good ones learn from their mistakes, the great ones learn from the mistakes of others, but then there's also the other side of the spectrum that says, look, to really learn things, you got to stumble. You got to stumble on your own. How do you impart those lessons?
Well, here's the thing, Lou. I don't necessarily think that the great ones learn from succeed to the degree they can always by just learning from the mistakes of others, right? I think that we all are going to stub our toe. You mentioned Larry King. My dad went to high school with him, and my dad also spent a year at Brooklyn College before he went into World War II. But what I learned from my dad was it's okay to be open. Like, people want to help you when you need help, and they don't want to help you if everything's great and it's okay. And like, you've got this mask on trying to look good. And let me just tell you, the very worst thing that you can do as a leader is worry about looking good. It's okay. Let yourself be embarrassed in front of your people. Guess what? It'll give them the opportunity to do. Be able to say, hey, I think I screwed up on this, instead of covering it up and giving you reasons why, or, wasting your time. It actually creates the space where you're able to have some freedom in your communication with people. That's what being a freedom fighter is. I'm not fighting for my freedom. I'm fighting for yours.
So, Jeff, speaking of embarrassing leaders, I got to tell you, I'm going to embarrass my partner because he's a big fan of Shark Tank, and you were back on season 1. You were an illustrious guest because you were one of those rare folks that said thanks but no thanks. Tell us a little bit about that experience. That had to be, from an entrepreneurial perspective, that had to be exhilarating.
Well, so I think you might be thinking about the Jeff Cohen who was on the episode after I was on, because there were 2 of us. There was me with Granola Gourmet, and then Jeff Cohen with the air guitar that folded up. And he did get offers. I got no offers. I told those guys, hey, look, I had a software business. We grew really rapidly. We were highly successful. We had 50 people and grew to a high 7-figure, low 8-figure run rate in 2 years. Like, it was just killing it, right? And then in 2007, the market crashed, and every single one of our clients, and they were all like Fortune 50, Fortune 100 companies, Global 2000 accounts. And they all came to us and they said, Jeff, we love you guys. You're amazing. We're just not going to renew our contract, and we got to let you go. And remember, that was a really tough time for businesses. The market had crashed, and a lot of our accounts were like B of A, Wells Fargo, in the state of California that literally just stopped, and Kaiser, like, just stopped on a dime. So I went through this controlled crash, and I wound up declaring bankruptcy. And when I shared that with Kevin O'Leary on the show, Kevin said, hey, Jeff, I respect that you're doing what you're doing, but I just want to let you know, you went bankrupt. You'll never get a bank. To me, you're radioactive. And so I wear that with a badge of honor because a couple of things happened out of that. First off, Robert Herkovic, who I think is a real mensch, and I'm grateful for him, he stood up right then and he said, you can't say that. The measure of a man is not how many times you fall. It's how many times you get back up. And I live by that today. It's one of the reasons why I do what I do. Like, there's a reason that for C-Level Roundtable, the slogan is no business stands alone. When my business was failing, it really killed me. And it wasn't just me. It's like I was depressed. I pushed my family away. Ultimately, I wound up getting divorced. And when that happened, my kids wouldn't talk to me, like, for a long time. It really took something to pull that back in and put it back together. So what happened on Shark Tank was actually really great. It just came at a time in my life where, like, I was really depressed, and I started making these granola bars, and people loved them. And we started selling them to 20 TV shows and movies on the Warner Brothers lot. We got them into Whole Foods. Like, it literally is the granola bar that saved my life, because my mental health really sucked, and I needed something. It was huge. By the way, we are the very first company that Shark Tank ever did a success story on. And in season 2, after being called radioactive and getting no funding, they came to our production of, I think it was like 50 or 75,000 energy bars to fill up all of the Safeways throughout the country. And they filmed that.
Good for you. You know, Jeff, that is simply just not the case. And I think a lot of people have to understand, when that is said on TV, especially, it's just for viewership. It's for ratings. It's for entertainment purposes. Because me and Luigi work with a lot of entrepreneurs who've had, you know, mishaps in the past, bankruptcies, and they can still get funding, right? And the thing is, you need to get funding in those critical times and find people that do believe in you to get past that as well, right? Bankruptcies don't stay on your credit reports forever.
Well, it's even beyond that, Matt. It's about relationships. I had a great relationship with my manufacturer. They knew we had this agreement with Safeway. And because of that, I actually was able to work with them. And they said, hey, you know what? We'll give you terms, because I had a PO, right? I didn't need outside funding from a third party. My vendor gave it to me. So, you know, I would just say, you know, you guys run a great business where you help businesses like mine get money. And there's a lot of ways I've found over the years to get the capital that you need to operate, even when you've got a bankruptcy or a blemish or something. There's a way to do it. I'm sure it's some of the stuff you work with your clients on, and me too. Like, when I'm working with my clients and coaching them and going through like making sure we have goals and objectives, and it's all laid out in the book, right, on how to do that. But I'm listening for like, where are the gaps? And when money is a gap, that suddenly moves to number one, because the lack of money is like blood for your business. And if you don't have enough at the right time, you're going to be shackled to your company. That's where this freedom fighter notion comes from. And to remove the shackles, you really got to have access to capital, and you've got to have access to people. You got to have something that gives you the opportunity to have your greatness show up.
Jeff, you hit the nail on the head, because the other side of the freedom fighter coin is the terrorist, right? So the entrepreneur in America has.
I love you, Lou. That's awesome.
The entrepreneur in America.
The two sides now. Go ahead.
Yeah, one person's freedom fighter is another person's terrorist. The entrepreneur in America has so many challenges. You have to deal with bureaucracy. You have to deal with the cyclicality of business, maybe some seasonality. You've got to deal with pandemics, terrorist attacks, crazy administrations in Washington. There are so many challenges, not even including your personal life. So when Matt and I see an entrepreneur who maybe took on a little bit of credit card debt to get through those tough times, or maybe had to borrow to get through those tough times, we see him as a freedom fighter who's all in, as opposed to that terrorist who made a mistake. Like, if the challenge in business is not going to stop, the persistence of the entrepreneur can stop. So if that guy is so vigilant, or that woman is so vigilant, and you're going to persevere during those tough times, we look at that as a badge of honor, as you say. That shouldn't be looked down upon.
I agree. I see it all the time. And so in what I do, like with the Business Accelerator program I created, that's now spawned the book Count Honorable, right? In that, I actually have been with groups where we've looked at what's going on in their business, right? And then, listen, we are, as entrepreneurs, I can tell you, we are among the most positive people in the world. And we don't always look at our businesses straight on. We look at it with, the rose-colored glasses, there's flower petals and sunshine, but sometimes something happens and we don't want to notice it. It's not that we don't notice it, it's we don't want to notice it. And I'll give you an example. I have one entrepreneur I worked with. She was just killing it with, in the Obama days, when he opened up Cuba, she started doing trips to Cuba and a tour company. And it was amazing. She was doing great. People were going, she was making money. And then Trump became president. And within the first year, he started shutting Cuba down. But in November of that year, we were meeting just as he pulled out all of the U.S. officials from the embassy and kicked all the Cuban officials out from Washington. And we were in a meeting with her, and she didn't recognize that as an issue. And she was about to spend like either $10,000 or $20,000 on a promotional advertising campaign for her next trips the following year. And it was within that meeting that we got her to look at what the political environment was and how it was impacting her. And in tears, she actually declared that she was shutting her business down in that meeting because she didn't get that she would be throwing good money into a bad soured pond. And, by the way, she took that money and she started an Amazon product, which became number one and killed it. Like, just know that, like, the trick in the entrepreneur's world is don't waste resources. Identify when it's time to stop expending resources because something's not working, or there are gaps you can't fill, or there's something you have no control over, like in this case, and then find something else. And she did. I'm so proud of her and what she accomplished. It was amazing.
I think entrepreneurs have to be extremely agile and, unfortunately, not fall in love with the product they sell, because 5 years from today, it could be a completely different business model overall if it's not working.
Well, that's a really great statement, Matt. And I'll just tell you this. It's hard not to fall in love with the product you offer when you create it and you babysit it and you watch it grow up and you start seeing what people are doing with it, it's really hard not to fall in love with that. When my sister joined me in the Granola Gourmet business, she's the one that opened up all those stores and created these great relationships, and she killed it. And there was just a point where I wasn't making any money, and I decided to go back to work and get a job. And I'm so grateful to my boss that I had from IBM in the late 90s, early 2000s, because she opened that door again for me. And I was able to come back to work at IBM. And while I was there and my sister was still struggling to make money with the company, we came to the conclusion it was time to shut it down. And I will tell you, because I had the business failure I had in the past, it was very easy for me to step back and say it's time to shut it down. But it took her 6 months to get comfortable with, like, it's okay to stop. It's okay to find another place to spend your time and energy and money. I see it with entrepreneurs, like I just mentioned the story about the Cuba tour business, right? Like, it really takes something when it's your baby, right? My wife and I were foster to adopt parents. We have a beautiful 1-year-old little girl that we've had for 6 months. We know she's going to go back to her parents probably, and it's killing us. Again, what's your mindset? Is your mindset, this is my baby and I'm going to keep it forever? Is your mindset that you're making something that makes the world better, and maybe it's not the time? Maybe it's not actually making the world as good as you thought it would make it. Maybe people don't recognize it. It's okay. You can embrace what doesn't work and look for where the gaps are every single week. If you do that, you'll start noticing. It will save you an enormous amount of money and headache and time. And by the way, you'll probably have a much better relationship with your family.
I think people need to remember, especially business owners and entrepreneurs, that you are not your company, right? A company is a living, breathing thing on its own. You're not your company. And finding that separate your company from yourself gets very difficult at times and wears down on people's mental health, right? And it falls over in other areas of your life.
It surely can, absolutely. But I want to just say this. If you're a solopreneur and you're starting your company, 2 things. There, now you can see it. 2 things. First, you are the only person accountable for the success of that business. Why? Well, you said, I'm going to do it. It's on you. The thing about accountability, though, is it usually takes 2 people. It's you who's accountable and someone that's managing that. Who do you have that's helping manage the accountability? It's a really difficult spot. But, the second thing to your point, Matt, is it's your baby. You looking at it through rose-colored glasses. So important to be able to say, I've got a team, even if they're not employees, right? Even if they're vendors or coaches or customers, you've got a team. So that as you grow and you're empowering your team and you add people to your business, you can really hit the point where there's some freedom and you're able to take a vacation without compromising your business and its ability to survive, right? Where someone has it. That's what being countable is all about. It's empowering other people as leaders and having them empower other people as leaders. And as you grow your business from 1 person to 5 people to 20 people to 50 people and more, when you come in with that intention, you're not a boss, you're a leader. They're not a manager. They may manage, but they're your leader. And there's a way of doing it and being a leader that's really effortless, that acknowledges the strengths people have, the things that they're good at, and the things they love doing. Because when you can find that trifecta of things, Lou, then what happens is, on the flip side, they can get comfortable with the things they're bad at, hate doing, and aren't and have no strengths in. Like that's where their weakest parts are. And they can tell you,
in your numerous businesses and your numerous entrepreneurial pursuits, you must have met hundreds, if not thousands of people. Have you noticed certain personality traits that make for successful entrepreneurs?
You know, there definitely are some personality traits that make for successful entrepreneurs. But I will tell you, I'm a big fan of programs like the Strengths Finder program that helps you determine what your strengths and weaknesses are, right? And it doesn't matter what your top 5 strengths are, what your bottom 5 strengths are. What matters is how you use them. Because you may have a desire, like for years, I thought, I'm going to write a book someday. Never did it. Finally, something triggered me to do it. So you may have that about starting a business, and something triggers you to actually take that risk. But knowing what bases you can cover and where you need other people to help cover bases is critical, because you'll never get to critical mass as a business on your own. But what you can do is you can test the waters and you can get something started. Like, you know, with my software company, I knew it was going to be big right away, because when Borland bought the company I was with and let go of all the professional services staff, they had no one to implement their software. So I started a company with my partner, Mac, right? And we suddenly were busy on the very first day of the company. Why? Huge gap. With the granola bar business, how did I know it was going to be successful? I had no clue. But what I did do is I went to some farmers markets and we started selling granola bars, and people liked them, right? And then we got into Warner Brothers and started selling there. And like, you can do that. You don't need a big team to figure that stuff out, but you do need teamwork, and you've got to have stick-to-itiveness. Like, you've got to say, okay, if I'm going to invest a nickel, I'm going to invest $1, and I'm going to do it for a period of time. I recommend that you look at everything in 90-day increments, because that's manageable, and you can look and see, what are the milestones I'm aiming for, right? Am I effective? Am I ineffective? Those are some of the things I teach you in the book, which really is a how-to guide, right? So when you're starting something or when you're in something and you're looking 90 days out, you may have big dreams. And we take those into consideration. Like, you know, you want to state where your business objectives are 1 to 3 years out. You may want to be a 10 or a $50 million company, but just not have a date for it. But in 90-day increments, those things are measurable, and it helps you really conserve resources when things don't work, and identify when you need to come up with something new for things to work.
Yeah, I'm definitely a big believer in that too. What we try to do inside of our company here is we definitely work on 90-day increments, but we actually break it down a little bit more. What are the 3 things we have to accomplish each week and each day to get us where we want to be in 90 days? And if you can hit those goals consistently, you're going to be where you want to be at the end of year 1, year 2, and year 3. I'm also a big believer, me and Luigi are big believers in triple down on our strengths and hire for our weaknesses across the board, right?
Agreed.
I have a saying that's pretty much similar to what you were talking about, which is called the 3TC method, is really what you need to run a successful business. It's time, team, tools, and capital, right?
Yeah.
And if you can get all those together, right, you got a really good shot of hitting those goals that you want for your business overall. You know?
Now, Jeff, I know what you're thinking. Like, geez, these guys must hire a lot of people with all these weaknesses.
No, I'm actually not thinking that. I'm thinking you guys are doing a killer job, because like, you got a great mantra. It's actually, so, you know, you talk about hiring people for the things that don't get done. What exists in most businesses is a lack of structure to identify that. And in the countable method, which, by the way, is pretty much open sourced by reading the book, like, you can do the program out of this. It actually, Matt, walks people through how they get to some of the things you just said. Like, for example, yes, we do have 90-day, 60-day, and 30-day milestones that we measure, right? Well, you need to have some meetings to figure that out. You can't just trust people are going to get there, right? There's got to be some verifying method, something to verify. You know, like Ronald Reagan said in the 80s with Gorbachev by his side, Mikhail, we're going to trust you're going to remove those nuclear weapons. And then we're going to send teams of people in to verify that you did. So I have a very simple meeting process that's listed in the book, and it tells you, when do you meet? Who do you meet with? What do you say? How do you know? How do you stop triggering people so they stop wasting your time with long stories about why things aren't done? When all you really just want to know is, hey, do I need to assign it to someone else?
Hey, Jeff, why don't you tell everybody where they can go and find this book? Because I know it just launched Tuesday, and it'll be out. By the time this podcast airs, it'll be probably one of the best-selling books on Amazon, if it's not already.
Well, thank you so much for that layup, Matt. I really appreciate that. So my website is countonable.com, spelled COUNTONABLE, Countonable. And you'll be able to get to the Amazon site from there, or you could just go directly there. We've got tremendous resources. Oh, by the way, on the site, you can download the first chapter, as well as every single tool that's used in the book. You can just use it, and it tells you how. You know, it doesn't just tell you, here's a tool. It says, say this in this meeting to this person, right? It's really simple. All the chapters are 3 or 4 pages long. So you can pick it up, get something that you can use today, come back at lunchtime or tomorrow and do it again. And so come to the website, sign up to be on our community, stay in communication. If this is something that you think you might want to try for your company, then, start joining our community and listening for where the gaps are that they can help you fill, or my team, if in fact you'd like to go farther.
Jeff, I'm back. Sorry I had to step out for a few minutes. I get emotional whenever someone quotes Reagan, so thank you. But
so does my wife. I'm not sure it's the same emotion though, Lou.
Jeff, over the years, I think the best term for you is you've been a good steward. You've been a good steward to your businesses. You've been a good steward to your family, now to your foster child. What's next? You've tackled entrepreneurship. You've tackled authorship. You've tackled supporting others. What's next?
So my family is really important to me. I have 2 adult sons and a granddaughter. I just love them to death. And I want to have time and space for them. And what's next, and I say it in the book, is I'm creating a team of coaches that are certified to deliver services and help companies be countonable and shift from being accountable, which people hate being, to something where people can take pride and say, no, you can count on me for this, or no, you can't count on me for that. And they'll stop doing the dishes for your company. But the next big step for me, the big milestone I have is 100,000 companies throughout the world be countonable. And I've started with 300.
I love that.
It's in the book. I actually declare it in the book, 100,000 companies. So I know that there's power in words. There's power in teaming. If you're a coach and you're interested in this, reach out. It's a great structure to help you give your clients a view of what's possible that keeps them looking, right? Instead of just being directors, they actually get to be a little introspective and see what's working, what's not working, where are the gaps. It's a great structure to coach CEOs and their executive teams from. At least that's what I found, and the people that I've worked with along the way.
Guys, go out, get the book, countonable.com, and reach out to Jeff if you need anything. Jeff, we definitely want to be respectful of your time. We appreciate you being here with us. But before we do let you run, I have a question this season that I've been asking everybody. Can you sum yourself up in one word?
Countonable.
I knew it. Awesome. Jeff, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. That's a wrap of the next episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to the show. And make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Liquid Lunch Project.